This week in movies, we did a mitzvah. In the global economic...
I thought that was last week.
in the global, in the global economic downslide,
yes.
We paid our hard-earned money to support some hard-earned makers of a movie called Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun Li.
Right.
Starring Smallville's Kristen Cruick as the titled role, Chun Li, who is... you know, her dad is kidnapped, taken from her at an early age.
By M. Bison, that bastard.
By M. Bison, and she goes on a spiritual journey to find her father.
True that.
Interesting note is that it's written by Justin Marks, who the internet has been talking about over the past year because he's the guy who had the privilege to write the screenplays for the Voltron and He-Man movie.
Well, now I don't want to see either of those movies.
Tell me more about why you don't want to see those movies, Alex.
Well, because some of the biggest issues besides acting and cinematography was the writing of this movie. I mean, this movie falls into the same thing that all movies of this ilk fall into. It was definitely better than the Street Fighter movie. Right?
The first one.
The first one.
The Van Damme.
The Van Damme, you know, the one that was going to be a G.I. Joe movie, and then halfway through they were like, let's just do it Street Fighter. Yeah! And we're being bombed, by the way. So, yeah, it was really too bad. I think it takes I think you have to be very skilled at making somebody look bad to make Kristen Cruick look as bad as she looked in this movie. There were scenes, like shots of her, where I was like, ooh, what? Is there a makeup artist?
I thought she looked pretty good.
She looked great a lot of times, but there were also scenes where I was like, what are you doing to this poor girl? She's gorgeous, what are you doing? Some of the worst acting in the Christopher Klein character, you know.
Nash
over.
out?
Nash out. How many, Nash over. Like how many times is that, like, really? And he was just like, I mean, it was embarrassing. And at the end of the day, the fight stuff wasn't, I kept wanting them to do the thing that the characters do, and none of them really did it, except for this weird fireball thing that just didn't make any sense and was like the weirdest thing.
Chun-Li did the upside down spinning.
No, I know, but none of the other characters, like Punchy McPunch,
Before I go to you, let me just say, on that note, if you didn't know anything about Street Fighter, if you went and saw this movie and when the fireball moment, you'd be like, what is going on?
It sticks out like a sore thumb. Yeah, there's a lot to not like about this movie.
Yeah.
Chris Klein single-handedly ruins the film.
Yeah.
There's a lot to not like.
I would not put on the, sorry.
But I wasn't hating the movie. I mean, I wasn't liking it, but I wasn't hating it until he came on the scene.
Yes. He's doing some weird Nicolas Cage impression, like, through most of the movie. It is very bizarre. I mean, he's in a completely different film from everybody else in the movie. But yes, there's a lot to not like. But as a Street Fighter fan, I went into this very low expectations coming off the last Street Fighter movie, and it's a lot better than the last Street Fighter movie. And there's some stuff in it that, you know, I thought the fight scenes weren't terrible. This movie's not good, but, you know, it wasn't as bad as some of the things we've reviewed on the show before. It's very odd that it seems like the Street Fighter B-list of characters, you know? It's Gen, and granted, the bosses are all there, Vega and Balrog and Bison, but, you know, no Ken, no Ryu, no Blanca, no Guile, no Zangief, no Dalzim, no E Honda. You know, that's a pretty big list of characters that you don't... But I also thought to myself, you know, how do you make a good Street Fighter movie?
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know if it's possible either. Here's my only solution to this, and I'll run this by you guys. And maybe this is what the sequel may be. But what if it's just a Street Fighter tournament?
That's what I wanted it to be.
No story.
That's what I wanted it to be.
It's just a series of
combat movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a series of weirder and weirder characters that get trotted out and kick-ass fight scenes, and we don't even worry about plot.
Well, that's
what did you think overall?
That's what I thought this movie was doing. At least the only thing I thought was the right idea behind this movie was that they were trying to not just do a tournament movie, because we have plenty of martial arts tournament movies. We do not need another one.
Starting with the unbelievable Bloodsport.
Starting with Bloodsport. With
actually, starting
many
years ago with a lot of Bruce Lee movies.
But so I thought that was I see why
commendable.
I thought that was the only reason why that was the only
Saving Grace?
choice that they made that made sense, and all the choices they made within that, like the cast of characters, like this plot, none of it. I said, why did they choose this as the plot for this movie? What? And I'm sorry, but Chris Klein's the words Chris Klein said too, like M. Bison, he moves through raindrops.
Yeah, that was epic.
Bizarre choices of work. Oh, let's do this dance. I didn't understand why they chose these words.
There's a lot of what was the one? Stand up. You stood up when it was not easy to stand up. I was like, what? Did you what?
Lane of like Rocky.
Dying mother says that to her?
It's
like what?
Coming from the guy who actually appreciates and enjoys the Super Mario Brothers movie, I thought this movie was terrible. So
we need to have another discussion about what you just said.
I was just about to say, I was like,
well, look, and I know how bad. What I'm saying is, as bad as Super Mario Brothers movie is, I think that's a better film than this. I did not think the fight sequences were.
There's some clever, fun stuff that happens. The fact that they
I
do
don't think that's clever or fun when people fly a bajillion feet on wires and look like they're being pulled, not gracefully
well, but it's fun.
leaping.
That's what they do in the video game. I liked the fact that the Vega fight. We were in a Vega-like stage. We had the chain link fence. You know, the way when he dies, he gets cut right here, which is what happened. You know, there's some fun shout-outs. It's not all terrible. There's some fun to be had. It's not like the first Street Fighter movie, which is just all terrible.
I would put it side by side, honestly. In my opinion, I would put them side by side. I think Vega
seen the first
particularly looked
Street Fighter
horrible.
movie?
Vega, no,
Yes,
Vega.
I saw it in the theater,
One, Vega looked horrible, and two, that fight was so quick. I was like, that's the Vega fight. Like,
but then, like the Chun Li versus Balrog, while it wasn't really a fight, it was in her stage. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Why is that? I
don't know. There's.
Why is that?
I just don't think it's all 100% negative. Yes, it's a bad movie.
And Michael Clark Duncan.
he phoned it in.
The problem is all these actors have been good in other movies.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were not just not good. They were goofy and laughable. And I felt uncomfortable.
Well,
for
but
all
maybe
of
they
them.
were pointing towards the younger audience. I mean, maybe they were really trying to go after not the nostalgic Street Fighter 2 audience, but the Street Fighter whatever audience.
That's the audience they should be going for, though.
Well, I agree.
I don't know.